Tomorrow, Tuesday, September 9th, 2025, at the time I'm recording this video, the U.S. Congress is scheduled to hold a live hearing with two new witnesses of unexplained aerial phenomena. But these witnesses claim to have been threatened with death. So, what's really going on in the United States right now? I'm going to try to explain all of this to you in this new video, somewhere between revelations and mysteries. Hello everyone, and welcome to the UFO Section 51 channel. I'm Dose Geek, and you're watching a new video on this channel dedicated to ufology and the paranormal. Of course, before starting this video, I want to take a moment to invite you to like the video, share it as much as possible, and subscribe to the channel if you're new to our UFO Section 51 community. Why share and like this video? Well, to boost the visibility of this kind of video and also to raise awareness among as many people as possible about the topic of ufology, which is being taken more and more seriously internationally by our political authorities, as well as by the media. In this new video, we're going to focus on the upcoming hearing in the U.S. Congress of new witnesses to UFO sightings in the United States. And these new witnesses are significant, since once again they are former members of the U.S. military and the U.S. Navy. This hearing is scheduled to take place in the U.S. Congress on Tuesday, September 9th, 2025, and is part of the ongoing efforts by American senators who want to bring transparency to the issue of classified files concerning UFOs in the United States. And also because it's a topic that interests them, it's something they care deeply about. They realize that there was real pressure from the American public on this issue. Americans want to know the truth. They are now convinced, and they have proof, that the American government, or at least government agencies and certain private American agencies, are hiding important information from them about the possibility of extraterrestrial life. And so these American senators, like Senator Tim Burchett and Anna Paulina Luna, are doing real investigative work and interviewing witnesses from various fields to try to shed light on this subject, and also to try to bring to light all these files that have remained secret for decades. So, for the past few days, there have been heated discussions circulating more and more on the social network Reddit. Users are reporting that several key witnesses have been contacted by officials like Anna Paulina Luna. Several of these key witnesses have reportedly stated that they are victims of intimidation, even death threats.
Who said that they didn't want to testify because they were scared for their life, and these were not people that you see in the media. These were not, podcasters or anyone who's made a career talking about it. These were legitimate, former military and or military contractors, and they were literally afraid of being killed. And then you had David Grush tell us directly that he was actually, felt in fear of his life, and some weird things had happened prior to that first hearing. And then I would encourage all of you to actually reach out to him, because even just yesterday I actually went into the skiff with David Grush and Eric Burleson. And prior to that skiff meeting happening, there was something really bizarre that took place with David Grush, and it's being handled at the law enforcement level. But, things like that happening are not normal, especially being that David Grush is currently Eric Burleson's congressional staffer. And so you're seeing a lot of stuff now flush out. And what I can tell you is we are trying to actively push to release the information that we've seen to the American people. And so again, you have this aspect of this disinformation campaign that's taking place, trying to discredit it. And I frankly don't care at this point, because what I can tell you is the people that are genuinely interested in the actual science of this, the people like Dr. Avi Loeb, who actually can provide the data to back this stuff up, those people know the truth. And so we're not necessarily doing this for the people on X that are trying to discredit it. We're doing for the people that are actually taking this seriously. And then also to remember, this is a very, very big deal, especially from a national security perspective. And so I've actually also had meetings with officials of foreign governments. I won't get into what those governments are, but I did ask for any information that they could share in regards to this topic. And I bring that up because the US government is not the only government that has taken a particular interest in this. And there are going to be, I think there's going to be some information presented in the upcoming hearing from George Knapp on the topic. But again, we've been able to branch out and talk to other governments in regards to this.
And now, we're going to watch a pretty incredible interview with a new U.S. Navy witness, Chief Alex Wiggins, who shares his own UFO sighting experience while he was in the U.S. Navy, with filmmaker Jeremy Corbell during an online show called Weaponized.
Watching this light emerge from the water at a distance and then go into the air with a solid light, no blinking or anything, I've never noticed that and witnessed that ever in my life. That's kind of what triggered me to go back to my instruments, check it out, talk with the watch team and ask them, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Let's use other sensors. Let's use what we got to see what we're witnessing.
Did you see one of these craft come up out of the water or not out of the water?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I say that I saw this craft come out of the water, it's nighttime. So I want to be clear when I say what I saw a light, and it was a decently bright light. So when you've been on the water as long as I have, you know the difference between an aircraft carrier's lights, a difference between an oiler's lights, a fishing, a cargo ship. It's what we learn when we freshly come into the Navy, especially as an operations specialist. We have to learn silhouettes, we have to learn lighting structures, things of that nature. It's just part of what our job is. Being senior enlisted, it's become part of very basic elementary things that you have to know when doing your job. Kind of learning the basics first and then, applying what you experience throughout your time and then kind of coming up with your, solution as what you're seeing. So watching this light emerge from the water at a distance and then go into the air with a solid light, no blinking or anything, I've never noticed that and witnessed that ever in my life. That's kind of what triggered me to go back to my instruments, check it out, talk with the watch team and ask them, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Let's use other sensors. Let's use what we got to see what we're witnessing. One thing I do want to add is that when I witnessed that, I wasn't feeling threatened. I didn't think, the ship is going to get attacked. And why didn't I think that? Because multiple reasons. I'm not at a different level of ROE. I'm not postured in such a way off the coast of San Diego where we're receiving intel that there's a significant level threat, that we need to be at a higher threat level. None of this is happening, right? We're off the coast. We're doing workups. We're, doing training, things of that nature. So nothing made me think that we need to, trigger a higher level of threat warning. I indicated what I saw to the tactical action officer, the TAO, who's in charge of Combat Information Center, ICC-1. And it was just, let's do more investigating. Let's see what we're looking at. And that's why we got Sapphire to look in that direction and notice what we noticed.
Do you believe UAPs pose a potential threat to our national security?
Yes. The technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years. Biologics came with some of these recoveries.
Oh my gosh, dude.
So these excerpts really suggest that we're on the verge of explosive testimonies, but under high tension. Just to remind you, this isn't the first time the U.S. Congress has heard about UFOs. In fact, in 2022, there were the first public hearings in more than 50 years. For the past 2 or 3 years, we've really been seeing a genuine openness from American lawmakers on this subject, which, let me remind you, is very sensitive, but today, in 2025, the context is truly different. Some witnesses actually claim they've been threatened with death simply for daring to testify about their own experiences, just for having the courage to speak publicly. There's the well-known case of whistleblower David Grush, a former U.S. intelligence officer who stated a few months ago before the U.S. Congress that a secret program is still currently studying non-human biological materials recovered from UFO crashes. And that's not all. The list keeps growing. There are Navy pilots like Ryan Graves who have also described strange objects, such as a very bright and almost transparent sphere that seemed to contain a kind of black cube, an object hovering in the sky, moving against the wind just a few meters from his plane. All these testimonies have gradually forced the U.S. Congress to demand answers, despite enormous behind-the-scenes pressure from various private agencies that obviously have no interest in letting all this information leak out, since we can imagine that they are the first to benefit from certain technological advances derived from these close encounters with non-human technologies. So why these threats? Obviously, there are several possible reasons, starting with national security concerns. Because admitting the existence of unknown technologies could obviously undermine the entire military establishment, not just in the United States, but in any country where there are classified defense files reporting close encounters with extraterrestrial objects. All these threats could also be motivated by reasons of industrial or military secrecy. Indeed, for example, in the case of an experimental drone developed using completely revolutionary technology, a government or government agency would have absolutely no interest in letting outsiders poke around in these sensitive files. Finally, these threats can also be used to manipulate public opinion. It's actually a good way to discredit witnesses in order to control the story, to control the narrative presented to the public. So, on social media, of course, there are always skeptics, always people who continue to believe that the government or a state is benevolent and only wants what's best, that it acts solely in the interest of the population. But it's not always that simple. And you can imagine that all kinds of lobbies, industrial, pharmaceutical, or others, even the military lobby in the United States, which is very influential. All these lobbies put enormous pressure on governments, on political bodies, on elected officials to try to steer public funds toward their own business interests or their own projects. It's a real battle that's constantly being fought within the institutions, despite the fact that, in principle, it should be the people who are sovereign when it comes to governing their country and managing its affairs. And among this group of skeptics, of course, there are always scientists, including researchers at MIT and Harvard University, who persist in conducting research to continually gather solid evidence and avoid fueling rumors. But the problem with traditional scientists is that they are often very dogmatic and prefer to stick to a traditional approach that they know well, one that has been taught to them generation after generation in academia. And sometimes that can be limiting when trying to understand completely supernatural phenomena. So at some point, maybe the scientific community as a whole should also take a more open-minded approach to these topics, while obviously keeping their scientific benchmarks in order to try to have the most objective perspective possible. And this is so that we can unlock as many tools and abilities as possible to understand all these phenomena. But to come back to all these testimonies that are truly given under high pressure, it raises many questions again, especially who owns the truth. Does it belong to the people, to the voters, or should it belong to a certain elite that has taken it upon themselves to govern the people? If citizens are threatened for testifying, does that mean the truth is too dangerous, or is it the society itself or the institution that governs us that is actually dangerous? Or quite simply, is the truth sometimes just too sensitive to be left free? So, I'm asking you these questions, and I'd be curious to read your comments and reactions about these testimonies that are now being given at the risk of being threatened. What is the real reason behind this organized censorship? Maybe you, behind your screen, know a bit more than I do. Maybe you have some ideas or theories. Maybe I've forgotten some things, and who benefits from this silence that they're trying to impose, to the institutions or to fear itself. So, during this upcoming hearing in the U.S. Congress, you understand that everything could change at any moment, or on the contrary, nothing will change. Like every time, it's a bit of a gamble, but one thing is certain, there are people currently risking their lives to inform us about these topics. So, what do you think about all this? Is it total transparency that will allow us to move forward, or on the contrary, will fear be strong enough to overcome this transparency and hold us back completely? Let me know what you think in the comments. Like this video if you enjoy the content, and I also invite you to share it. This was Dose Geek on UFO Section 51. Until the next video, big hugs to you all. Keep your eyes on the sky. Stay alert. Longue vie et prospérité.
Bright light in the night. Some things taking flight.